Good evening, Patriot Nation. Well, unfortunately, my primary YouTube channel has gotten yet another strike. This time, the strike was on a video way back from June of last year. So they are clearly looking for excuses to get rid of this channel. Since this is the second strike in 90 days, I most likely will not be posting new videos to my primary YouTube channel until the strike expires, which will be in October. I will be uploading to my backup YouTube channel as well as my Rumble, BitChute, and Brighteon channels until that strike is clear. So, tonight I'll be talking about Riot season is about to start, more news on the recession, and unfortunately the bad news about the supply chain just keeps getting worse. So let's just jump right in. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like Riot season is scheduled to start as flyers are being handed out in DC ahead of the Roe v. Wade decision. This is from Zero Hedge. Night of Rage flyers spotted in DC ahead of Roe versus Wade decision. Any day now, likely Thursday, the Supreme Court will publish its final decision on whether or not to overturn Roe v. Wade. If the 9 justices overturn the court case, the decision to ban abortions will become a state matter. It'll spur demonstrations as distributing flyers have already begun appearing across DC, warning about riots if the case is overturned. DC call to action, Night of Rage. The night SCOTUS overturns Roe versus Wade hit the streets. You said you'd riot. It looks like they got a picture of one of the posters that have been put up. So, they are ready to go, and I'm guessing this is just going to be the first of many peaceful protests if this does get overturned back to the states. It's unfortunate that so many people don't understand that this is not going to make anything illegal. It's not going to do anything other than give each individual state the right to choose what is best for the people that live in that state. The people still are electing their state representatives. They're electing the people that are going to make this decision. They have numbers and offices that they could go to talk to their state representatives. And if you don't like the decision that is being carried out in the state that you live in, you still have the option of moving to another state, moving to another city, or, in the event that you want to get an abortion, you still have the opportunity to travel to a state that performs that procedure. This is not making abortion illegal point blank across the country, like so many people have wrongly said that it's going to do. One other quick note, I got some great feedback from a viewer that said that I'm talking too slowly for the videos to be helpful. And so I'm going to make an attempt to not only speak a little bit faster, but I'm also going to try to speed them up a little bit in post to try to help out with that situation. I have a problem in real life, or I shouldn't say real life, on the other side of the camera, when I'm not on camera, of talking too fast. And so I've been trying to make an effort to talk more slowly on camera, but apparently I'm going too slowly. And part of that's probably due to the fact that I'm digesting and processing the information as I'm presenting it to you to try to keep the preparation time down a little bit. And also, if I am talking too slowly, I do apologize. I know on YouTube, but I'm sure that the other ones have the option where you can actually speed up the video. So if I am talking slowly, go ahead, speed that up a bit. I won't be offended. I do that quite a bit on training videos and things like that, where I want it to go faster than the presenter is speaking. I understand we all have limited time, and I do have a tendency to ramble sometimes. So I apologize for that as well. But back to the news. This is the worst year on record for the markets so far. You guys got to remember, we are only halfway through the year. And so if this is the worst year on record and we still have half the year to go, it is very possible that it can get even worse. We just published, let's see, where are we at? One of the worst years on record so far, which was published by DB's head of thematic research, Jim Reed, and among other things, it shows that 2022 is shaping up to be one of the worst years on record for financial markets. In fact, as his chart of the day demonstrates, the S&P 500 is currently on track for the worst first half performance since 1932 at the depths of the Great Depression, having slid 22.3% so far this year in total returns. That just edges out 1962, when the index lost 22.2% over the first 6 months of the year. But for those with traditional 60-40 type portfolio, the news doesn't get any better, since 10-year treasuries are currently on track for their worst performance since 1788. Wonderful news. As we're continuing to build back broke, globally, bond and stock markets combined have lost a stunning $36 trillion, ladies and gentlemen. $36 trillion. It's not all bad news, and those readers looking for some positives may be comforted to learn that the 5 worst first half performances for the S&P 500 before this year all saw very good second half performance. So let's hope that Build Back Broke Biden pulls his head out of his ass long enough to start listening to people that actually know something, and we're able to turn this around a bit. The problem that I have is that I think in the past, a lot of the people that have been in charge want to turn the economy around. They want to make things better. And unfortunately, I don't think this guy or the people that are pulling his puppet strings and telling him what to do have any plans to make things better. They don't want to have a good economy. They want to destroy the American economy. They want to destroy the American way of life. They want to push this one world globalist agenda. And the only thing really standing in their way to achieving all of their goals is America. And if they can destroy the country, destroy our economy, it's going to help them to push this globalist agenda. So I don't think that they want to save the economy. I don't think they want to bring things back to the way that it was under President Trump. If they truly wanted America to recover, all they would have to do is basically reverse everything that Commie Joe has been doing and reenact all the Trump policies that brought us one of the best economies in the last 40 years. But they're doing the exact opposite of everything that he did, and it's doing nothing but continuing to bring this country down. And it keeps getting worse, ladies and gentlemen. Recession warnings from the Economic Forum in Doha. One day after President Biden said a recession wasn't inevitable, top corporate executives, economists, and bankers spoke at the second annual Qatar Economic Forum. They were overly pessimistic about the macroeconomic backdrop in the U.S. and cautioned about increasing risk. Tesla CEO Elon Musk to economist, I have no idea, Nirali Rubani, nicknamed Dr. Doom for his bearish views, to Atlas Merchant Capital's Bob Diamond, and Stan charts, Bill Winters all pointed the economic storm clouds gathering and the downturn was almost unavoidable. Again, these are not dumb people. These are people that know a lot. They are experts. This is not my opinion. I'm simply reading the news and relaying what the experts have said in relation to it. Like many of you, I am just a cog in the wheel here, and am at the mercy of people that are a lot more powerful and have a lot more control than I do. It's, when you don't have millions or billions of dollars in the bank, you definitely don't have the level of security that a lot of these guys do. And when you have a lot of them that are this concerned over what is going on, then I think that the rest of us need to start taking a closer look at things, and we need to make sure that we're using a little extra caution because we don't have the safety net that these guys have. And again, I'm not an expert on the economy. I'm not an economist, but I am an analytical person, and I spend more time than I probably want to or should be spending, reading through a lot of this stuff. And I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, unfortunately, yet. Everything that comes up when we're looking at actions aren't positive right now. The vast majority of the stuff that's taking place is all negative, at least somewhat negative, and in most cases, extremely negative. So, I've been saying it for months now, you need to start preparing for those worst case scenarios because it's going to get bumpy out there, folks. It really, truly is. Yeah. Anyway, on to the oil prices. Again, we've talked about oil a lot on this channel, and I think a lot of other channels have too, but oil is more than just how we power our vehicles. It's not how you and I get to work. It is how farmers harvest their crops, how they transport those crops, how construction equipment operates, how trucks and trains and all of our transportation infrastructure operate. And then you have all the stuff that's made from oil other than fuel sources. So the price of oil has a huge impact on a lot of things beyond just simply, it's going to cost you and I more money to drive our vehicles, and we should just go out and buy a Tesla. No, it's way more than that. Looking through this article, higher oil prices benefit oil companies by making the extraction process more profitable. However, there are also negative impacts on the economy. High oil prices add to the cost of doing business, which pass ultimately onto consumers or onto customers and businesses. Whether it is higher cab fares, more expensive airline tickets, the cost of apples shipped from California, or new furniture shipped from China. High oil prices result in higher prices for seemingly unrelated products and services. And that is exactly correct. Of course, customers who fill up their gas tank each week will immediately notice higher oil prices. The core inflation reports strip out food and energy. Those items drive short-term consumption patterns. Given that consumption comprises roughly 70% of the GDP calculation, the impact of higher oil prices is almost immediate. As shown below, spikes in oil have high correlation with economic recessions, financial events, and oil price reversions. Oil prices are crucial to the overall economic equation. As prices increase, it translates into higher inflationary costs to consumers. Unsurprisingly, except for apparently to the Kamijo administration, there is a high correlation between the rise and fall of energy prices and the consumer price index. You can kind of see some interesting points here on this chart. China trade war, Russian invasion. I mean, if you look here, you know, it was already going up significantly before that, starting in 2020. And went up a little bit more after the invasion point there. Oil impacts a variety of every aspect of our lives, from our food to the products and services we buy. Therefore, the demand side of the equation is a telltale sign of the economic strength or weakness. As shown, oil prices track our combined rates, inflation, and GDP. Interesting how they all work together, huh? Given that the oil industry is very manufacturing and production intensive, rising oil prices increase manufacturing capex and economic growth. It also works in reverse. It should not be surprising that cannot talk tonight. That sharp spikes in oil prices have been coincident with downturns in economic activity, a drop in inflation, and subsequent decline in interest rates. Well, I could go on with this article. There's a lot more information in here, but I think you get the picture that oil prices, mainly because of the fact that oil is so heavily involved in our entire economy, from the production of things to the manufacturing of things to the transportation of things, that when that price goes up, it has a very negative impact on every industry that touches our lives. And it should be no surprise that when it is costing you more to power your car, to fuel your vehicles, for the farmers to harvest and produce crops, for truckers and trains and planes to transport things and ships, and the average person is paying more for their food, they're paying more to fill up their tank, they're paying more for, other essentials like clothing, energy for their housing, transportation costs. I mean, every single thing that we use in our lives have gone up 10, 20, 30% in the last year and a half. So it should be no surprise that inflation is the top concern of Americans, not guns, not climate change, or any other far left talking point, but inflation. As inflation has crept to the highest level in more than 40 years in recent months, the issue of rising cost of living has also climbed to the top of Americans' minds. According to results from Statista's Global Consumer Survey, 44% of U.S. adults now think that inflation is among the most pressing issues that need to be addressed in the country, displacing issues like immigration, Social Security, which typically top these kinds of lists. Cost of living is number one, health and Social Security is number two, economic situation is number three, crime is four, unemployment, poverty, education. There we start to get into climate change, down towards the bottom, immigration and housing. According to the latest findings, inflation sits atop the list of Americans' concerns, above health, Social Security, economic situation, crime, and unemployment. It needs to be noted, however, that the survey was conducted in 3 ways between April of 21 and March of 22, meaning that the number for inflation is probably lower than it would be if the same question were asked today. Well, yes, because things in June of 2022 are staggeringly higher than they were in March or any time in 2021. So I'm guessing that those numbers are going to be even higher for the inflation concerns and lower on everything else. As a country, and I think unfortunately a lot of places in the world are like this, where there is a large portion of the population that is living paycheck to paycheck. And so when you are living paycheck to paycheck, and then all of a sudden in a very short amount of time, you have a 20%, 30%, 50% increase in your expenses, you have no way of compensating for that because you have little to no money in savings to pull from until you can, to give yourself a little bit of a cushion to try to find a better paying job or to get a second job or to refinance things or whatever, cut back on things. You're hit immediately. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, that immediate hit means that they're going to be putting more on their credit cards. And that is going to mean that the debt that they have is going up. And a lot of the recent numbers are showing that the average American's debt has gone up significantly in the last year. And so we have a lot of people that have a lot of debt to start with, and now you're adding even more to that debt. What's going to happen now when they can't pay, or when they, man, I just cannot talk tonight, when they start to hit the point where they just can't pay those bills? You're going to be seeing a lot of bankruptcies. You're going to be seeing a lot of foreclosures. And unfortunately, a lot of people that probably should have looked at refinancing, 6 months ago, never ended up doing it. And now, when you're looking at 6% interest rates, it may be that the refinancing is now going to be more than what they're at rather than less than what they're at. So they've lost out on that opportunity to try to save some money to compensate for these rising costs of inflation. But, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get any better. The more that we read through things, the more days go by, the worst, the worst is yet to come, unfortunately. And unfortunately, when it comes to the supply chain, the worst is yet to come. Because here comes some more supply chain woes. Thanks to good old Commie Joe enacting another wonderful measure to hurt the economy even more. The U.S. ban on Xinjiang imports, I think that's how you pronounce that, starts today. Here comes new proof that the Biden administration's appetite for international economic warfare is as vast as its indifference to the collateral damage visited upon American businesses and consumers. Even as price inflation and product shortages are decimating Commie Joe's poll numbers, the administration on Tuesday began enforcing a new law that promises to make both problems even worse by imposing a ban on all imports from China's largest province. Effective today, June 21st, the Commie Joe regime-backed Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act will impose a guilty till proven innocent, what a surprise that is, regime that bars all imports from China's Xinjiang province unless businesses prove their products are not made with forced labor. Otherwise, their shipments will be targeted as commanding high priority for seizure by U.S. customs agents. China had previously said that it would retaliate but gave no specifics. At a Tuesday press conference, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said the charge of forced labor is a huge lie made up by anti-China forces to smear the country and an escalation of the U.S. suppression of China under the pretext of human rights. According to Bloomberg, Wang said China will forcibly uphold the lawful rights and interests of Chinese companies and its nationals. The UFLPA provided for a 6-month gap between its December 23rd passage and June 21st implementation, yet the CBP waited until last week to provide businesses with instructions on how to prove a negative, that is, how to convince bureaucrats that forced labor didn't play any role in the production of a given product. So it sounds like this is another one of those things that it's going to be pretty much impossible to prove. And despite all of the awful things that actually does take place in China and we all know that they pay their people a lot less, and there's a lot of very unscrupulous or at least questionable business practices and labor practices taking place in that country. Americans are hurting right now, and the supply chain is already decimated by a number of different things, some of which I can't talk about here on YouTube, but it seems like we could have kind of eased into this. We could have delayed it a little bit. We could have given the clear instructions on what proof is needed, um, and made this be a lot smoother process. The way it sounds is that basically a lot of stuff is going to be shut down, and it's going to take months to get through this, and going back and forth and going through all the red tape. And in the meantime, it's, the American people that are suffering because of, even more things that we're not able to get, even more supplies that are now being held up, and even more containers that are now being held up at sea or at port, and that can't be, turned around to ship other goods. It's just, like one disaster after another with this administration. But it's clear from, watching this guy fall off his bike, to not being able to walk upstairs, to the situations that he continuously gets himself into, and his team continuously puts himself in, puts the guy into. I mean, there's no way, if I was his handlers, that I would ever let this fool ride a bike, and especially not a bike that has, I'm not even sure what they're called, straps, stirrups, whatever they are, to clip your feet into the pedals. I tried those on a bike once, and they're kind of a pain in the butt for someone that's young and agile and and halfway competent. I can't imagine, being someone of his age and someone of his obviously degraded physical ability, trying to, strap his feet into a bike. I mean, that's just a disaster waiting for happen. I mean, I'm not even sure I'd want to let this guy ride a bike without training wheels on it, because it's obviously going to be making, memes for, months to come now because of this. And this stuff's going to be floating around the internet for decades. And all of our enemies and everybody else is going to be using this to embolden all of their supporters at just how weak America is now. But I digress. I'm going to keep an eye on, what's going on with the economy, and that seems to be the biggest thing right now. There's a lot of other people reporting on all the stuff that's going on in Russia. A lot of the economic indicators that I'm seeing, and a lot of the economic experts that I've been reading, keep putting the warnings out there that things are going to get worse. And unfortunately, I'm just not seeing any really good news to give us hope that, at least in the next 6 months, that anything is going to get better. And I think that with the blackouts coming that they keep talking about, and the inability of our power grid here in America to support the summer energy usage, and all these people keep pushing for more and more people to go out and buy, electric vehicles, and adding them to the power grid that can't even support the houses that are current and businesses that are currently on it with stable, reliable power, that it's only going to make things worse in a lot of places. Now, riot season looks like it's going to kick into effect. There's just a lot going on, everybody. So, stay frosty out there. Keep an eye on what's going on. Do as much as you can to prepare your family for, kind of those worst case scenarios. And, if you found the information in this video helpful, please make sure to hit that like button and to share it out with anybody that will find this information helpful. Also, make sure that you do hit that subscribe and notification button. Like I said, I'm going to be posting stuff to my backup channel, which doesn't really have much subscribers to it because I don't post to it very often. But considering that my primary channel is going to be kind of in the danger zone until October, I am going to be using the backup channel for at least most of my videos until then. So make sure that you do have that subscribe and notification bell for the backup channel hit as well. as my other channels over on Rumble, Brighteon, and BitChute. I do appreciate all the support. I do appreciate all the subscribes. For God and Country, good night.